Kanthapura novel by Raja Rao. Chapter number first. Our village. I don't think you have ever heard about it. Kanthapura is its name, and it is in the province of Kara. High on the Ghats, is it? High up the steep mountains that face the cool Arabian seas. Up the Malabar coast, is it? Up Mangalore and Puttur, and many a center of cardamom and coffee, rice and sugarcane. Roads narrow, dusty, curved roads wind through the forests of teak and of yak, of sandal and of sal, and hanging over blowing gorges and leaping over elephant haunted valleys. They turn now to the left and now to the right and bring you through the Almble and Chamba and Mena and Kola passes into the great greeneries of trade. There on the blue waters, they say, our carted cardamoms and coffee get into the ships the red man bring, and so they say. They go across the seven oceans into the countries where our rivers, where our rulers live. Cart after cart grounds through the roads of Kanthapura, and on many a night, before the eyes are shut, the last lights we see are those of the train of carts. And the last voice we heard is that of the cartman who sings through the hollows of the night. The carts pass through the main street and through the porter's lamp, and then they turn by Chenia's pond, and up they go. Up the passes into the morning that will rise over the sea. Sometimes when Rama Cheti or Sabha Cheti have merchandise, the carts stop. There are greetings, and in every village we can hear Subha Chete's 350 rupee bells ringing them bells as they get under the yoke. Ho, say Subha Chete, hai ho, and the bells shiver and start. The the slow moving carts begin to grind and to rumble, and then the long harsh monotony of the carts exhales through the darkness, and once they are on the other side of the Tipper hill, the noise suddenly dies into the night, and the soft hiss of the Himavati rises into the air. Sometimes people say to themselves, the goddess of the river play through the night with the goddess of hill. Kenchama is the mother of Himavati. May the god bless us. Kenchama is our goddess, great and bounteous is she. She killed a demon ages ago, a demon that had come to ask our young sons as food and our young women as wives. Kenchama came from the heavens. It was the sage Tripura who had made pennies to bring her down, and she waged such a battle, and she fought so many a night that the blood soaked and soaked into the earth, and that is why the Kenchama hill is all red. If not, tell me, sister, why should it be red only from the Tibur stream of heads? For a foot down on the other side of the stream, you have mud, black, brown, but never red. Tell me, how could this happen if it were not for Kenchama and her battle? Thank heaven, not only did she slay the demon, but she even settled down among us, and this much I shall say. Never has she failed us in our grief. It rains, come out. You fall at her feet and say, Kenchama goddess, you are not kind to us. Our fields are full of jungles, and you have given us no water. Tell us, Kenchama, why do you seek to make our stomach burn? And Kenchama, through the darkness of the sunshine, opens her eyes wide. Oh, if only you could see her eyelids quicken and shiver, and she smiles on you a smile such as you have never before beheld. But that means that every night when the doors are closed and the lights are put out, pat, 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 the rain patters on the tiles, and many a pigeon is heard to go into the fields, squelching through the gutter and mire. She has never failed us, I assure you, our Kenchama. Then there is the small box, and we vow that we shall walk the holy fire on the annual fair. And child afterward gets better and better, and but for the widow of a Stama's child and the drunken Drapa's brother's son, tell me whoever has been taken away by smallpox. Then there was Gloria. We gave a sari and a gold trinket to the goddess, and the goddess never touched those what are to live. As for the old ones, they would have died one way or the other anyway. Of course, you will tell me that young Sankama Baba Chanap's wife died of it. But then it was not of nothing, for child was born 10 months and 4 days after he was died. 10 months and 4 days, I tell you, such wolves always die untimely. Rampa and Subana, you see, they got it in town, and our goddess could do nothing. She is the goddess of Kanthapura, not of Tasana. They ought to have stayed in Talasana and gone to goddess Talasanama to offer them prayers. O Kenchama, protect us always, leave like this through famine and disease, death and despair. O most high and bounteous, we shall offer you our first rice and our first fruit, and we shall offer you saris and bodies cloth for every birth and marriage. We shall wake thinking of you, sleep protesting before you. Kenchma, and though the harvest time shall be dance before you, and fire in the middle, and the horns about us, we shall sing and clap our hands and sing. Kenchma, Kenchma, goddess begin, Bonetius, mother of earth, blood of life, harvest queen, rain grounded, Kenchma, Kenchma, goddess beginning and bounteous. And when the night is over, the sun rises over the Bebur Mound. People will come from Santur and Kopar. People will come from the Santur coffee estate and Kopar cardamom estate, from coconut gardens and sugarcane fields, and they will bring flowers and fruits and rice, dal and sugar candy and perfumed sweetmeats. And we shall offer you all, dancing and singing. The bells will ring, the trumpets tear through the groves. As the camper rises before you, we shall close our eyes and hymn your praise. Kenchma, great goddess, protect us, O beginning one. Then there were the Kanya house people, who had a high who have a who had a high veranda, and those the house was, I know not how many generations old. It was still as fresh and new as though it had been built only yesterday. No wonder that waterfall Venkama roared day and night against Rangama. Why should a widow, and a childless widow too, having a big house like that? And it is not her father that built it, said she. It's my husband's ancestors that built it. I have 2 sons and 5 daughters, and that shaven widow have not even the luck of having a bandicoot to call her own. And you have only to look at her gold belt and the Dharmagvar sari wore. And so night and day did she wall whole. Whenever she met Temple Lakshma or Bata's wife Chanama coming back from the river, to tell you the truth, Wincome's own house was as big and strong as her sister-in-law's, but she said it was not large enough for her family. Besides, she could not bear the idea that it was occupied by Rangamma's father and mother. And when the vacations came, Rangamma had all her jungle brothers and the children of the elder one from Bombay, all those city-bred fashionable idiots, to spend the summer. Tell me, said Rangamma one day to Akamma, bringing forward her family sari over her shaven head, why should our family feed them? If her parents are poor, let them set fire to them, dhoti and sari, and die. Oh, if only I could have had the courage to put lizard poison into them food. Well, that will come to. She would clap her hands and go into her house, leaving front house Akamma to hurry up her steps. Akamma had people come to visit them. You know, coffee planter Ramya is a cousin of her sister-in-law, and when he is on his way to Kamwar, he sometimes drops in to see them and even spends a night there. He left his fort on the other side of the river, for the ferry did not play a night, and he came along. Today he is there, and people are all busy trying to see him. For midday meal, he will have a vermicelli Payasama and Patwari Nanjudia, and his son in law are both invited here. There are others coming too, the temple people and the fig tree house people, and though the university graduate as they come him. He had lost his father when he was still young, and his mother died soon after. As his 2 sisters were already married and got to them gone to their mothers-in-law. He was left all along with 15 acres of wetland and 20 acres of dry land, and he said he would go to the city for higher studies and went to the university. Of course, he never got to the inner even what he had city ways, read city books, and even called himself a Gandhi man. Some 2 years ago, when he had come back from Pune, he had given up his boots and his hat and suit and had taken to dhoti and khadi. And it was said he had even given up his city habit of smoking. Well, so much the better, but to tell you the truth, we never liked him. He had always been such a braggart. He was not like a corner house Murthy who had gone through like a noble cow, quiet genius, scenery, different, Brahmanic, a very prince, I tell you. We loved him, of course. You will see. If I only had not been a daughterless widow, I should have offered him a granddaughter if I had one. And I know he would have said, Achakka, you are of the Veda, Sastra, Pravina, Krishna Shastri's family. And is it greater for you to ask something for me or for me to answer you? Yeah, he's the age my Sinu is, and he and Sinu were as one were say were Rama and brother Lakshmana. They only needed a Sita to make it complete. In fact, on that day, as everybody knew, coffee planter Ramya had come to offer his own daughter to Murthy. But the horoscopes did not agree, and we were all satisfied. Till now, I have spoken only of the Brahmin quarter. Our village had a pariah quarter too, a potter's quarter, a weaver quarter, a Sudra quarter. How many huts had we there? I do not know. There may have been 19 or 100, though 100 may be the right number. Of course, you would not expect me to go to the Para quarter, but I have seen from the street corner Bidal Timya's hut. It was in the middle, so let me see if there were four on this side and about six, seven, eight that side. That makes some 15 or 20 huts in all. Pock Mark Sida had a real Toti house with a big veranda and a large roof, and there must have been a big greenery somewhere inside, for he owned as much land as Patwari Najundia or shopkeeper Subacheti, though he had not a half Kanthapura as Bata had. But latterly Siddha's wife went mad, and he took her to Pune and he spent much money on her. Bhatta of course profited by his occasion and added a few acres more to his own domain. Clearly fellow this Bhatta, one day he was sure to become the Jamindar of the whole village. Though we will knew him walking about the streets with only a long cloth about him. The Potter streets were the smallest of our streets. It had only 5 houses. Lingua and Ramya and Subhya and Chandraya owned the four big houses, and old Kamalama had a little broken house at the end of the street where she spent her last days with her only son. Formerly, they say the Potter Street was very flourishing, but now with all these modern Mangalore tiles, they had to turn to land. But Chandriya still made festival pots, and for Gauri's festival, we have always had our pots done by him. He makes our images too, and he even sold them at the Manjarpur fair. The rest of the potters were rather a simple, quiet lot who tied them lands and now and again went out to the neighboring village to help people to make bricks. Now, when you turned round the Potter Street and walked across the Temple Square, the first house you saw was the nine-beamed house of Patel Range Gopda. He was a fat, sturdy fellow, veritable tiger amongst us, and what with his tongue and his tan and his brain, he had amassed solid gold in his coffers and solid bangles on his arm. His daughters, all three of them, lived with him, and his son in law worked with him like slaves, though they owned as much land as he did. But then, the tiger is words for law in our village. If the Patel says it, we used to say even a coconut leaf roof will become a gold roof. He's an honest man. He had helped many a poor pigeon and heavens. What a terror he was to the authorities. The other Sudras were not badly fed householders, and they had two usual 2 or 3 sons and a few daughters. One could not to say whether they were rich or poor. They were always badly dressed and always paid revenues to and wept after civil notice. But as long as Range Gopda was there was no fear. But he would see them though the difficulties and they were of his community. The Brahmin street started just on the opposite side and my own house was the first on the right. Between my house and Subha Chatra's house on the Karwar road was the little Kanthapurishwari's temple. It was on the main street promontory as we called it and became the center of our life. In fact, it did not exist more than 3 years ago, and to tell you the truth, that's where all the trouble began. Corner house, Narsimha's son, Murthy, our Murthy, as we always called him, was going through our backyard one day and seeing a half suckling, said, "Why not unearth it and wash it and consecrate it?" "Why not?" said we all, and as it was the holidays and all the city boys were in the village, they began to put up a little mud wall and a tile roof to protect the god. He was too big and fine and brilliant, I tell you, and our Bhatta duly performed the consecration ceremony. And as our Angammas and she would pay for the milk and banana libation and a dinner. We had a great feast. Then came Postmaster Survanaranya and said, "Brother, why not start a Jayanti? I have the text. We shall read the Shankara Vijaya every day, and somebody will offer a dinner for each day of the month. Let the first be mine," said Bhatta. The second mine, said Agent Narjudia. The third must be mine instead, Pandit Venkateshya. And the fourth and the fifth are mine, said Rangamma. And if there is no one coming forward for the other days, let it always be mine, she said. Good dear Rangamma. She had enough money to do it, and she was alone, and so the Sankara Jayanti was started that very day. It was old Ramakrishna's, the very learned father of Rangamma, that said he would read out the Shankara Vijaya day after day. And we all cried out, "May the goddess bless him," and there was none more scenery and deep voice than he. We always wanted to discuss Vedanta with him in the afternoons after the vessels were washed and the children had gone to school. And now we gathered at the Ashwara's temple on the promontory instead of the Ragamma's veranda. How grand the Sankara Jantri was! Old Ramakrishna read chapter after chapter with such a calm, well metal voice, and we all listened with our sari frings wet with tears. Then they began to lay leaves for dinner, and one boy came and said, "I shall serve, aunt," and another came and said, "Can I serve pesam, aunt?" Another came and said, "I shall serve rice, aunt," and this way and that we had quite a marriage army that they served like a veritable princess. Then when we had eaten and had washed our hands, the younger woman sang and we discussed the Mayavada, and after that we went home. We hastily pushed rice onto the leaves of the young and came back for the evening prayers. These used to be bhajan. The philosophy of trumped, the philosophy of Maya, or the illusionary nature of our experience. Trumped, trumped Langava with his silver trumpet was always there, and once the music was over, we stayed till the chamber was lit. And throwing a last glance at the god, we went home to sleep with the god's face framed within our eyes. It was beautiful, I tell you. Day after day, we spent as though the whole village was having a marriage party. Now, sometimes there used to be a Harikathas. Our Shastri is also a poet. You know, the Maharaja of Mysore had already honored him with the palace shawl, and Shastri had just sent His Highness on epic on the sojourn of Rama and Sita in the hill country. They said he would soon be honored with the permanent place in the god, and he is a fine singer too, but he is an even greater Harikatha man. When he stood up with the bells at his ankles and the cymbals in his hands, how true and near and brilliant the God world seemed to us. And never had anyone made a grander Harikatha on Parvati's winning of Shiva. He had poetry on his tongue, sister, and he could keep us sitting for hours together. And how we regretted the evening of the Sankara Jantri was over. The earth looked empty, but by Kenchama's grace, it did not end there. The next morning, Murthy comes to us and says, Aunt, what do you think of having the Rama festival and Krishna festival? The Ganesh festival we shall. Harikatha, literally story of course, generally a story from one of the Indian legend is taken and with music and dance, and Harikatha performer leads it in extemporized words. Sometimes the music and dance stop and he explains the whole thing in a familiar prose. We shall have a month's person every time and we shall keep the party going. Of course, my son say we, and we shall always manage this to give a banana libation if nothing else. But says he to have everything performed regularly we need some money and money. It made us think twice before we answered. And how much money would you need, my son? But if it's chamber, it I will give it. It's a coconut, I will give it. If it's a sugar candy, no, aunt says smoothie. It's not like that. You see, aunt, while I was in Kambar and had Rama's festival, Ganpati's festival, and we had evening after evening of fine music and harikatha and gas light procession. Everybody paid up for a bit, and we had so much money that we could see get the best harikatha man like Balur, Narahi, Shastri, Vidwan, Chandresh Kehara. Do you think they will come here? Say I. Of course, aunt. And what do you think? Pay them 10 rupees and give them cart fare and railway fare. That's all. They don't ask for a plankyons, hodas, and we shall have harikathas such as no one has ever heard on seen in Kanthapura. All right, my son. Now how should we pay? We know Murthy had been to the city and he knew of things we did not know, and yet he was an honest and an helpy pant. 1 rupee, aunt, just 1 rupee. And if there is some money left, we shall always use it for a holy work. You understand, aunt? That is what we did at Kambar. Yes, say, I thought a rupee was a lot to me. I have 7 acres of wetland and 12 acres of dry land, and they are just enough for my Sinu and me to have our 3 meals a day. I repeat, it was a 25th of my revenue, and tell me when did we ever pay it in time? But the rupee is for the gods, and it is Murthy that asks for it. We always bless him. So Murthy goes from house to house, and from younger brother to elder brother, and from elder brother to the grandfather himself. And what do you think? He even goes to the potter's quarter and the weaver's quarter and the Sudra quarter, and I closed my eyes when I heard he went to the Parha quarter. We said to ourselves, he is one of these Gandhian men. We say there is neither caste, nor clan, nor family, and yet they pray like us and they live like us. Only they say to one should not marry early, one should allow widows to take husband, and a Brahmin might marry a Brahmin. Well, let them say it. How does it affect us? We shall be dead before the word is polluted. We shall have closed our eyes. So he goes Murthy from house to house, from householder to householder, and what do you think? He gathers 147 rupees. Every voice says, take it, my son, and Ragamma gives him a 10 rupee note and says, last harvest when Ramaya's Chenia had paid back his mortgage loan, I asked, what shall I do with his money? And I sent 100 rupees to a Brahmin orphanage in Karwar. Well, money spent there or here it is all the same to me. And then Agent Narjodhya pays 2 rupees, his son, the teacher, pays 1, and his sister's husband pays 2 and 3 or 4. I don't quite remember, and go see Murthy gathering money in his Astros boil. And what a grand festival we had of falling Ganesh Chantry. There were reading parties and chamber ceremonies every evening, and our young man ever performed a drum and sitar bhajan. And it was and one of those evenings and that they have invited Ramachar. You know J.R. Ramachar, the famous Harikatha man. They say he had done Harikatha even before the Mahatma, and a funny Harikatha man he is two sister. Today he says it will be the story of Shiva and Parvati in penance becomes the country, and Shiva becomes heaven, knows what. Shiv is the third, three-eyed, he says, and Sabras too is three-eyed. Self-purification, Hindu, Muslim, unity, Kadar, and then he talks of Tamajati and Sakuntala and Jashoda, and everywhere there is something about our country and something about Sabras. Never had we heard Harikathas like this, and he had sing to and can hear Ramachar. He can keep us wrapped in tears for hours together. But the Harikatha he did, which I can never forget in this life and in all lives to come, is about the birth of Gandhiji. What a title for a Harikatha! Cried out loud Venka Tala. Kashama, the mother of the postmaster. It is neither about Ram or Krishna, but said her son, who had to have been to the city. But mother, the Mahatma is a sant and holy man or lover of a widow. That doesn't matter to me. When I go to the temple, I want to hear about Rama and Krishna and Mahadeva and all this city nonsense, said she. And being an obedient son, he was silent. But the old woman came along that evening. She could never stay away from Harikatha, and sitting beside us, how she wept. This is the story Yaramcha told us. In the great heavens, Brahma, the self created one, was lying on his serpent when the sage Valmiki entered, announced by the two doorkeepers. O learned sire, what brings you into the distant world? Asked Brahma, and offering the sage a secret beside him, fell at his feet. Rise up, O god of gods, I have come to bring you sinister news. Far down on the earth, you choose your chief daughter, Partha, the goddess of wisdom and well-being. You gave her the sage-loved Himalayas on the north and the seven surging seas to the south, and you give her the Gangas to meditate on, Godavari to live by, and the pure Kaveri to drink in. You give her the riches of gold and of diamonds. You give her kings such as the world has never seen. Ashoka, who loved his enemies and killed no animal. Chandragupta, who had the nine jewels of wisdom at his court, and Dharmarya and Vikramaditya and Akbar and many a noble king. And you gave her two sages radiating wisdom to the eight cardinal poets of the earth, Krishna and Buddha, Sankara and Ramanuja. But of Brahma, you who sent us the prince propagates of the holy law and sages that smote the darkness of ignorance. You have forgotten us so long that men have come from across the seas and the oceans to trample on the wisdom and to split on which itself. They have come to bind us and to wipe us, to make our women die milkless and our men die ignorant. O Brahma, deign to send us one of your gods so that he may incarnate on earth and bring back light, plenty to your enslaved daughter. O sage, pronounced Brahma, is it greater for you to ask for me to say, yeah, Shiva himself will forthwith go and incarnate on the earth, free my beloved daughter from her enforced slavery. Pray seat yourself, and the messengers of heaven shall fly to Kailash, and Shiva be informed for it. And lo, when the sage was still partaking of the pleasures Brahma offered him in hospitality, there was born in a family in Gujarat a son such as the world has never beheld. As soon as he came forth, the four wide walls began to shine like the kingdom of the sun, and hardly was he in the cradle then he began to lisp the language of wisdom. You remember now how Krishna, when he was but a babe of four, had begun to fight against demons and had killed the serpent Kali. So too our Mohandas began to fight against the enemies of the country. And as he grew up and after he was duly shaven for the hair ceremony, he began to go out into the villages and assemble people and talk to them, and his voice was so pure and his forehead so brilliant with wisdom that men followed him more and more. Men More and more men followed him as they did Krishna, the flaunt player, and he goes from village to village to slay the servant of the foreign rule. Fight says he, what harm no soul. Love all says he, Hindu, Mohammedan, Christian, or Parit, all for all the equal before God. Don't be attached to riches says he, for riches create passions, and passions create attachment, and attachment hides the face of truth. Truth must be tell, he says, for truth is God, and verily it is the only God I know. And he says to spine every day, spin and wave every day, for our mother is in tattered weeds, and a poor mother's needs clothes to cover his her shows. If you spin, he says, the money that goes to the red man will stay within your country, and the mother can't feed the foodless and the milkless and the clothless. He is Sant and Mahatma, wise man and soft man and a son. You know how he fasts and prays, and even his enemies fall at his feet. You know, once there was an ignorant Pathan who thought the Mahatma was a convict's man and wanted to kill him. He then swore beneath his shirt as he stood waiting in the dark for the Mahatma to come out of a lecture hall. The Mahatma comes and the man lifts up his sword. But the Mahatma puts his hands on his weak man's shoulders and says, brothers, what do you want of me? And the man falls at his feet of the Mahatma and kisses them, and from that day onwards there was never a soul more devoted than he. And the servant then crossed the thighs of the Mahatma, a huge serpent too. And there were other stories he told us. Here Ramachar, but hardly had he finished the Harikatha and just about to light the chamber to the god. And then this Shankar Palace Chamidar is here. Murthy goes to him and they talk between themselves, and then they talk to Yaramchar, and Yaramchar looks just as though he were going to spit out, and we never saw him again. Our Murthy performed the chamber ceremony, and from that day onwards Murthy looked sorrowful and calm. He went to Dore and Shastri's and Puttu, and Dore and Shastru's and Puttu went to Postmaster Surbya, Naranga's son Chandru and Ramu. Then came Pandit Venkateshya and front house Ami's son Shrivansh and Kitu, and to Kitu and Shrivansh and Puttu and Ramu and Chandru and Simu threw away them foreign clothes and became Gandhi's man. 2 days later, policeman Bade Khan came to live with us in Kanthapura. Here the story start.